Welcome to Silencio Coffee Talk. And today I'm here with my bro, Fred. Fred, what's up, man?
Hey, Mike. Not a whole lot, man. I'm pretty excited to be here and talk about today's topic. How you been?
Been doing good. I'm glad about this topic as well because I think it's really important. I mean, today, guys, if you're listening, watching, we're going to be talking about nutrition. And I think it's really important because it's going to help you understand better, how to have a balanced diet. We're going to cover some topics such as how to eat to support your overall health, ways to prevent diseases. Now, I am not an expert. I'm just going to say I am not an expert, but I do have my opinions. What's helped me in the last 50 years that I've been involved in exercise and trying to eat well to support any of my hobbies like running or lifting or shooting, any of those things. But eating well is something that promotes well-being, and that's something you should really think about. So good nutrition, it's going to enhance your energy levels. Something like I encountered today. I went out running and I was dragging, man. Actually, it was pretty bad, and I realized I had low sugar, low hydration, and I had to get back home. So this is something that can give you either really improved mental health or real foggy mental health, and that's something that you should consider. So we're going to go into nutrition. And again, I'm not an expert, but I'll go ahead and talk about what works for me. And Fred's going to definitely talk about what works for him. And as a medic as well, I think he has perspective that I don't. Fred, you want to talk about some, you know, different points of nutrition?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's start with, since we're talking nutrition, let's start with the big three, right? Your macronutrients. Most everybody knows what those are, right? Protein, carbohydrates, and fats. And, the different food sources that contain these, as well as the ratios in which to eat these, which you'll hear all kinds of information, all these different dietitians, nutritionists, eating experts, and like everybody has their opinions. My opinion is this is a very under researched area as far as like solid long term uh, studies, like um, placebo controlled double blind case studies, because there's not a lot of those long term. I'm talking like 10, 15, 20 years, because you can't control humans for that long and control them and limit what they do. And there's a lot to it. There's a lot to these different studies that they do. And not to get on a tangent about studies, but just to kind of put out to the people that don't read them or understand them, they're funded by certain organizations and companies, which could direct actually the results of the studies one way or the other, depending on if it's like General Mills funding a study, or if it's any major food production company or laboratory that might have some kind of ties with pharmaceutical companies. All right, so there's a lot of gray area out there, and I'm probably gonna I think most of my stuff will be to try to like put out some points that make people aware of that situation, because it's very confusing if you try to navigate that space on your own. You just kind of root around through some of the research and listen to different people's opinions, and I guess most importantly, look at like end results with people if they have a certain diet plan. And I use the carnivore diet, and I've been doing it for 20 years, and I don't know, 10% body fat, and I weigh 200 pounds, and I have all this lean muscle mass or whatever. So look at these people, look at their body composition, look at their daily habits. If you can figure that stuff out or find that information out, because, I guess that's the end result. That's where you find the proof in the pudding, as they say. Now, keeping in mind that everybody's anatomy and physiology is a little bit different, and people respond differently to different things. And we're going to talk about gut health and the gut brain axis, and immunity and all that stuff. So, big three. I guess we'll start there. Like I said previously, carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. So, what are they? Proteins. Protein sources come from a wide variety of foods, everything from animal-based foods to plant-based foods, right? So you have proteins such as, red meat, you have fish, you have shellfish, you have, for plant-based sources, you have soy, you have what other plant-based? I don't eat a lot of plant-based stuff. So what other plant-based, Mike? I know you have I know you have bacon in your house.
Yeah, my wife definitely does the plant-based. So, it's a heavy focus on local, seasonal foods that you can get. Sometimes we'll have what we can get here, and then in the fall it's a little different. So there are so many items out there, but we do a lot of plant-based.
What are you guys using for sources of protein? Like
A source of protein, I'd say a lot of legumes.
Oh yeah, right.
Like we do like walnuts, almonds, peanuts, any type of beans, that kind of thing.
Okay.
So yeah, definitely it works, and it's quite good.
So proteins, which is made up of amino acids, and your body breaks down these proteins into their, there's different amino acid profiles. There's essential aminos, and your body breaks all these down and disperses them where it needs them. Next is carbohydrates. Carbohydrates is your body's main fuel source, right? Because it converts most carbohydrates into glucose. Glucose is a nutrient that your body requires to live, to stay alive. Your brain requires glucose, and your muscles require glucose to create movement. All right. So some sources of carbohydrates, if you don't know, are things like whole grains, any grains, rice, wheat. Other sources are fruits, vegetables. I mean, there's tons of different sources of carbohydrates. There is also sources of carbohydrates which are not that great for you, that are not, they're processed, they're highly processed, like different types of processed sugars, sweeteners, and those types of things. And we'll talk about processed foods and artificial sweeteners and stuff like that. I think this is a pretty broad scope topic. We seem to be doing a lot of those, right? So this probably would require more than one podcast, but we're going to get touched on the basics and the big stuff today, I think. And then lastly, excuse me, is fats, right? Fats is something your body also requires, as it does protein and glucose. Fats, your body uses in a whole host of biological processes in your body, right? People associate fats a lot of times with negativity or in a negative aspect, which it is not that at all. There's good fats and bad fats, and we're going to probably touch on some of those and what they do. So those are your big three, right? Carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. Mike, did you have anything else to add to that?
No, I think we're just laying down a baseline. I mean, really, guys, it comes down to why you should have good nutrition versus bad nutrition. And it seems so, common, but it's not so common. A lot of people really don't know. They think that they can eat hot dogs and beef patties all day long, but, it's a difference between processed and non-processed. So really comes down to, okay, good nutrition is going to improve your well-being, and it's very expensive to be unhealthy. That's the other thing. A lot of people don't realize that there's a cost at the end of the day. 10, 20, 30 years down the road, eating poorly, you're going to be ending up in the hospital, or maybe have a lot of lifelong health issues. So again, good nutrition is good for maintaining weight, and it's going to improve your immune system. So a lot of our discussion today is to help you guys navigate. And again, this is broadly speaking, but we just want to lay a baseline for those listening that good nutrition, again, can help delay the effects of aging. This is something that gives you energy. And I can go on and on and on, but Fred and I are just going to talk about how do you get there? So how do you get good nutrition as opposed to bad nutrition?
Yeah, let me add something else to the carbs, fat, protein, macronutrients thing. A big measurement of food intake and energy expenditure is the calorie, right?
Mm-hmm.
These three macronutrients are if you break it down into grams, in other words, 1 gram of protein, 1 gram of protein contains 4 calories. 1 gram of carbohydrate contains 4 calories. 1 gram of fat contains 9 grams of calories. So fat are a little more calorie dense than both protein and carbohydrates. Just keep that in the back of your mind. Really, depending on who you talk to, total carbohydrate intake in a day, we'll say, versus the amount of energy you expend in calories in a day, we have what's called either a calorie deficit or a calorie surplus, right? And when you talk about weight loss or weight control or weight management, a lot of the experts will tell you there's this old saying, calories in, calories out, right? And I believe there is some truth to that. Not all calories are created equal, especially on some of the research that I've done, man, for like the last, I don't know, probably since I've been, I don't know, in my 20s anyways. They're not all created equal. And, there's these different myths like carbohydrates make you fat or fat is bad for you, right? And a lot of that stems from like the 80s and 90s when the FDA put out, their guidelines, and the American Heart Association put out their guidelines on diet. And everything back then was low fat, high carbs was the way to go. Lots of grains, if you look at the food pyramid as it is, a lot of grains. I think they recommended like 11 servings of grains, or I'm sorry, carbohydrates in the form of grains or, potatoes, whatever. And we can kind of get into the food pyramid, which a lot of people are calling BS on nowadays. And I'm one of those people. Like I disagree with the food pyramid.
Well, it's and what's so funny, and I'll just inject here. Every time I go to the clinic, it's always some overweight nurse or overweight doc or someone who's puffing, cigarettes on break, and they're giving me advice. And when they look at my wife and me and they say, "You guys are in your, late 50s, holy cow!" And so it's like, who's putting out this information? Just like you said, I mean, who's going against the pork industry, the beef industry? Who's going against the chicken industry, the pork industry? So whatever is pushing this agenda, you have to be very mindful of what's out there, and really comes down to the proof. Show me the results. That's it. I just want to see, are you exercising on a diet, and what is that diet? Don't tell me what this food chart says. Don't tell me what this food pyramid is and what you're following. Let me know. Are you functioning at a high level? And some people are, and they're contesting a lot of the old myths out there. So we're seeing, like you said, the 80s and 90s, real different.
Exactly.
Especially with social media and access to a lot of information with the internet now, man.
Yep. Let me see if I can pull up this food pyramid so we can kind of talk about it, just because I totally agree, or I totally think it's bogus. I think it was put out by big food industry to push certain products. And, we're going to get into some opinions here, right? Some very strong opinions. So hopefully we don't offend anybody. Let's see if I can pull this up. Can you see that?
Yep.
All right, good. All right. So if you look at this, the food pyramid, and this is just a random one I pulled up. Let me see if I can center this. It's kind of cut off there at the bottom, but that's all right. We know what it is. So down bottom, it says carbohydrate, grains, breads and grains. And it recommends, I think it was 9 to 11 or 6 to 11 servings of those. Fruit group or fruits is 2 to 4 servings recommended. This is per day. Vegetable group, 3 to 5 servings. Meat, poultry, fish, legumes, eggs, 2 to 3 servings. I know you're not seeing those. I'm actually looking at a different one on my other computer that has the servings. And then the dairy group, the milk, cheese, and eggs, they recommend 2 to 3 servings. And then at the very top, this one's a little different because it doesn't have fats, oils. It just has the sweets and the junk food and the sugary drinks. But they also put fats in there like oils, and it says use sparingly on the one I'm looking at. And then this one here that's on the display, it just says junk food, sweets, sugary drinks, stuff like that, fast food, which are not recommended. Now, fats and oils, Let me see if I can pull that other one up that I'm looking at. Yeah. All right. This is kind of similar. I don't know why the whole thing. There we go. Fats and oils and then sweets. They're all in the same category, right? These things are not the same, folks. Like, this is why I think the food pyramid is bullshit. And then down at the bottom, it has bread, cereal, rice, pasta group, or grains and breads and stuff like that. 6 to 11 servings, it says down here, the other one I'm looking at. That's a lot of carbs, man. That's a lot of carbs. Like, the average person, unless you're some kind of high performance athlete, does not need that many carbohydrates. Because you're also getting carbohydrates from that next row up, them fruits and veggies. You're getting carbohydrates from dairy, usually, right? The lactose in dairy. So if you're eating all these things, you're probably overeating in carbohydrates, which is why, in my opinion, we are the most obese country. That's not the opinion part. The opinion part is, I believe this is why we are. But it is a fact, we are the most obese country in the world, okay? Because I believe we overeat carbohydrates. Now, yes, that's my opinion. So, take it as you will. But where do you stand on that whole carbohydrate thing, Mike? I know you're a big runner, so you probably eat a lot more carbs than I do.
Yeah, I do. I mean, they're good carbs and bad carbs, right? Of course. I mean, like
Yep.
I would get them from apples, quinoa, from beets. I get it from oatmeal. Even fruits like grapefruit, oranges, that kind of thing. And I will say that my sugar intake comes from a lot of fruits too, as well. I mean, I remember just eating grapes for 2 weeks straight, and that's all I ate all day. And I tell you, the energy levels were so high and spiked. I just wanted to work out all the time, man. I couldn't even sleep because I was wired just to work out. So
Right.
that's not an experiment I want to continue. Maybe if I was retired, I could, get into that and see. But yeah, I think that there are a lot of good carbs and bad carbs, and the bad carbs is just people eating bread all the time. That's all they want to eat. And I know people that's all they eat is bread and cheese and steak, and they eat nothing else. But they don't really look at some of the other things that they could eat, the alternatives. I'm a huge person. I'm a huge believer in substitutions, right? So you could substitute this carb for another carb. For example, you could do oats, and I think that would be good. Or if you wanted to, you could do sweet potatoes, or you could do brown rice versus some of the other stuff that people doing like white bread. You know what I mean?
Yep. Okay. So carbohydrates are overeaten, and then carbohydrates are in other foods as well, even like dairy and stuff like that. Let's talk a little bit about fats. You mentioned healthy fats, right? What are some healthy fats? Well, it depends who you ask, because again, I think the food industry has a huge grasp, a huge influence on what our medical professionals in our healthcare system tell us, because they tell us that your vegetable oils and all your seed oils are extremely healthy because they lower LDL cholesterol, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is one of the risk markers if it's high for heart disease, which there's a lot of doctors and there's a lot of nutrition people that are coming out against this, that are saying that high cholesterol and high LDL, low density lipoproteins, are not an indicator of heart disease. Now, I've done a lot of research and read a lot of papers. What it comes down to is LDL cholesterol. There's LDL and HDL, high density lipoproteins. And I'm not going to try to speak intelligently on this because it's been a while since I've done a nutrition class. So I'm just kind of going off memory. But they say the HDL is the good cholesterol, LDL is a bad cholesterol. But after doing some research, I found that particle size with LDL matters, right? So larger particles are not bad for you. Smaller particle size, and there's actually tests they can run when you get blood work that break these down into their categories. And there's also the case where LDL is oxidized, which is what makes it dangerous when it's oxidized. So in other words, you're eating these fats, high monounsaturated fats and polyunsaturated fats like canola oil and corn oil and stuff like that. And without getting too like geeking out about it, these things are highly processed, right? And they're highly oxidized. Okay. And when you ingest these things, those particles, those oxidized particles, they don't jam well with your digestive tract. Okay. Cholesterol is a required molecule for your body. Your body has to have it. There are probably hundreds of processes that occur in your body that require cholesterol. Your brain requires lots of cholesterol. Most people don't know this. So, you go to the doctor, get blood work, and they tell you your LDL is, I think a safe LDL is under, what is it, under 110 or under 100, I think is recommended. LDL or HDL recommended to be over 40 or over 50. And your total cholesterol number, anything they say now 200 or less or under 200 is good. So if you're over 200, that's like, well, we're probably going to try to put you on a statin. So when I get my blood work, I eat a lot of red meat. I eat red meat every day. I eat eggs every day. So I eat a lot of cholesterol. And they tell me, well, your cholesterol is 220. We want to put you on a statin. And I refuse. I'm like, no, I'm not taking any statins. Nope. There's a lot of research now on statins. I'm not trying to get the pharmaceutical side where statins they have horrible side effects and they do not help people. If you look at the numbers of people that die of heart disease and heart attacks, what was I going to say? Most of them, I forget the numbers. I'd have to look this up, and I probably should have did it before this podcast, but most of them had low LDLs, most of them. All right. So that's like a red flag for me. So, depending on who you listen to or follow or whatever, they'll go in and there's like seriously smart people that are educated in this subject with PhDs and doctorates and all the advanced degrees that are pushing against this big pharma / big food industry recommendation of keep the LDLs low. And saturated fats is another one. Saturated fats are horrible for you. You'll die of heart disease. Your arteries will clog up. It's all bullshit. Because I eat a lot of saturated fat and my triglycerides are always low, right? And triglycerides is one of those markers that you need to keep an eye on. If you have high triglycerides, that's fat molecules in your bloodstream. That's a thing to keep your eye on. And there's other tests you can do that can give you a better picture, a more accurate marker of where your lipid profiles are at. And like I said, they cost money and a lot of healthcare providers probably won't do them unless you ask. And even when you do ask, they'll sometimes, shun you off or whatever, because it costs money, right? It's the healthcare industry. Now, sorry, I dug us into that big hole. Let me get back to.
Well, hey, Fred, before you go on, I have a question for you, which is why did you, when did you, change your diet, or when did you transition, or why? So for example, some people have a health crisis and they say, boy, I'm going to switch, right? They have a scare. They go to the doctor and then they say, oh boy, I better eat more, whatever. So just save that question in the back of your mind and drive on. But when you get a break.
No, I'm going to answer that now because
you're
that
going to answer
kind
now? Okay.
segues into what I'm talking about. My little tangent here. So great question, Mike. Thanks for asking that. Cause that was a big one for me, is why did I start doing a lot of this research? So on my 50th birthday, actually a little bit before, that's when I started eating differently. I ditched all the processed foods. Like I started reading labels more. I ate less. I know it's going to sound crazy. Less green vegetables, no grains, except for some white rice occasionally. And that's kind of based on workouts, like carbohydrate cycling around certain workouts. But for me, it came down to pain and inflammation, right? A lot of carbohydrates, high carbohydrate diets. I'm not a no carb guy. Don't get me wrong. And I'll talk a little bit more about my day-to-day eating regimen. High carbohydrates cause inflammation. It's a fact, right? There's plenty of research on it. If you don't burn all the carbohydrates that you ingest, you put on fat. Adipose tissue is also a causer. There's causation for inflammation through having excess adipose tissue. Adipose tissue is body fat. You store body fat in different areas. There's different types. There's subcutaneous body fat, like the old beer belly,
Mm-hmm.
or the love handles, right? That's subcutaneous adipose tissue. And then there's visceral fat, which visceral fat is a marker of metabolic dysfunction, which is not good. So, and there's ways to get all that stuff checked through body composition tests with what's it called? I'll come back to that.
Mm-hmm.
But my diet, I was suffering from a lot of pain, joints, all my joints. Now I have a lot of injuries. I have a history right through all my time in the military, accidents, parachute jumps, high impact jobs and stuff like that. So plenty of injuries, and chronic pain and inflammation was my nemesis. So I started looking at what I ate, right? Let me give you an example. And I've talked about my coffee consumption, right? Every day. So every day I would drink coffee all day long. I'd probably drink 4 to 6 cups throughout the day. Every single cup, I'm talking about, I don't have one up here, but like a 12 to 14 ounce coffee mug had 2 teaspoons of sugar in it. So on a good day, I was probably eating 10 teaspoons of sugar just in my coffee. Now you add to that your processed foods, your granola bars with high fructose corn syrup, and your cereal, your healthy cereal, whole grain cereal with high fructose corn syrup, and oats and all these other things that accumulate and your body turns into glucose. So you have all this glucose forming, floating around, and your body doesn't use it. So it stores it for later. So when I turned 50, I started with a strict carnivore diet for about a couple of months, right? And they call it an elimination diet. There's different
Mm-hmm.
names for it, lion diet. And I don't know, I probably dropped at least 10 pounds, maybe more. I've always been around 215 to 225, depending on my eating cycles or in my workout cycles. Like if I was doing like powerlifting, or if I'm doing like endurance or whatever, which I don't do a lot more, and I don't do much endurance these days. But my body fat, my lean muscle mass to body fat ratio varied, right? I'd go anywhere from where I'm at now, probably about 15% up to probably closer to 20. I bet you on a good day, I was probably 20. I can't verify that because I never had it checked when I was the fattest in my life. But inflammation was a big one. So I switched to that carnivore diet, and I started noticing changes, not just in body weight, just energy levels, because I wasn't crashing from the carb overloads, right? From that insulin surge. When you eat a lot of carbohydrates, you constantly are releasing insulin, right? And you become what's called insulin resistant. Insulin resistance is not a good thing. Okay. This is the start of pre-diabetes, which leads into diabetes type 2. So when you start becoming insulin resistant, that's not a good thing. Okay. Because your body is always surging insulin to deal with the carbohydrates and the glucose roaming around. Then I started adding stuff. I started reading some books, carnivore diet books, books by like keto guys, keto doctors, and stuff like that. And then I kind of shifted to a more of a ketogenic style diet. So very, very low carb. I was probably eating less than 50 grams of carbs per day, which some people say that's not low carb, but for me it was, because I was
Mm-hmm.
probably eating 400 grams of carbs a day, which is friggin' ridiculous, right? So long story short, I started adding other things in, more fruits, less green vegetables, and just the short answer, or the short explanation of why, is phytotoxins, right? I started doing research on different phytotoxins in plants. And depending on who you ask, which expert you ask, they'll tell you humans were not designed to eat plants. Okay. And I think there's some truth to that. Not all true. You can eat some plants, right? And everybody's different. Everybody's body reacts differently. And everybody has different, we'll call it overreactions, which basically is what an allergic reaction is. It's an overreaction of your body's immune system. And then I kind of shifted back a little more into like an all around, not low carb, but I would eat under 200, 150 to 200 grams of carbs a day based on my workouts. But one thing that I always did from the carnivore days till now is I base my daily food plan on my protein intake, which is 1 gram per pound of body weight per day. So and some will say that's lean muscle mass, not your total body weight. So lean muscle mass for me was 185 pounds. Total body weight is 220 pounds. So I eat anywhere from 180 to about 200 to 220 ish grams of protein every day. That's why that's why I stage my menu, my eating around. The fats fall where they may. So fats naturally associated with the meats I eat, the red meat, a lot of ribeyes, a lot of ground beef. That's the fat intake. Fats that I cook in, clarified butter, avocado oil. Sometimes I'll use olive oil, but mostly animal-based fats like butter, clarified butter. I used to buy vats of beef tallow. I'm out right now. I'm getting ready to render some beef fat to make tallow. But I use all animal-based fats when I cook, except for sometimes olive oil, not a lot. And sometimes, depending on what I'm making, avocado oil. And so I don't go out of my way to measure fats. I just, whatever's associated with those foods is in there. That's what I get for fats. Because ketos, they do a higher fat content, ketogenic diets. Like I said, I base mine on the protein amount, and then whatever fat is naturally associated with the protein plus what I cook with, that's what I get for fats. Now, carbohydrates depends on my workouts. If it's a higher intensity workout, I'll eat a cup of rice with supper. But usually it's like a piece of fruit in the morning, maybe a banana, or maybe 2 pieces of fruit. If I know I'm going to work out hard, a banana and a peach with my breakfast, which is always 4 eggs. Sometimes it's 4 eggs and a small steak, but that's kind of where I'm at now. I very rarely snack. If I do snack, it's like beef jerky or boiled eggs, or a piece of fruit. Sometimes I'll eat like a peach or some blueberries. I love me some blueberries, but that's kind of what I do and why I did it. I know that was long drawn out.
No, I think it's all useful information. It's worked for you, and what is sustainable, right? For a long period of time. You've done it for what, 2 decades? But you said when you turned 50. So I think you just turned 53. By the way, happy birthday.
This month,
you had your birthday last week, was it?
No, it hasn't come yet.
Oh, it hasn't come yet. Yeah. So the last couple of years, but I'm more of a flexitarian. Now that is, I try to be very flexible. I try to cut down on my meat intake, and a lot of it is just simply because I don't cook for myself. Number one, our kitchen is not the biggest. My wife and I, if I wanted to cook in there, it's not a lot of room. We're always bumping. I would love to have a bigger kitchen and smaller bedrooms and everything else, because my wife and I spend so much time in the kitchen, and a lot of it is I eat whatever she makes for me, and if she, has time, she'll make extras, or I'll go out and I'll eat something, right? So again, flexitarian is basically someone who cuts down on their meat intake. I eat a lot of fruits and vegetables, but I'm not a strict vegan, nor am I into a raw vegan diet. I'm not a vegetarian, and this is what works for me. I do consume cheese, I do consume egg and milk, and sparsely. So a lot of it is really what is functional for my family, meaning what we can do with the time we have with a grandchild and my day job and our hustle, which is the Silencio coffee. But would I like to change it? Absolutely. I think I've got, good genetics. I've been able to stay healthy without being in the clinic or the hospital for long periods of times. And I'll get checkups and I'm good to go. So, but when I look at my family and I look at, some of my relatives, they do have health issues, and it's like diabetes or something. And that's just because they do not work on discipline, right? And a lot of it is tied into the cultural patterns and rituals, like, my Vietnamese side, which is a lot of pork, a lot of beef, and constantly eating high fat, and not eating really well, and then drinking alcohol. That's another issue, right? With very little. And you said again that you eat blueberries and things like that. You get your carbs from that, but it's not really eating anything other than what they get at Costco, pizza, and it's just processed foods. So there are some issues there. But for me, I think it's really just simple, healthy eating practices that I do that are enduring over time for me in my household. And again, I do a lot of mindful eating. I try to not binge eat, right? If I want to go out and have a burger, fine, I'll go do that. Or a slice of pizza, I'll do that. But that's rare. I mean, mine is mindful eating and an emotional connection. On the other hand, when I want to go get a burger like Five Guys, I'll just go do that. I'm not going to obsess over it. Oh, there's too many carbs here, too much fat here, sugars, whatever, in whatever I'm going to eat. I just basically go and get it because I don't do it very frequently. And the other thing is I don't use it as a way to reduce stress. I don't emotionally eat. I don't eat cakes and cookies and those things all day long to make myself feel better. That's just not going to happen to me. So that is kind of, I think you have to kind of decide what you want to do and reframe the way you see eating. Mine is not food as medicine for some people. And even when I was Olympic lifting and bodybuilding and I was over 200 pounds, mine was functional eating, right? I would just eat the same meal all day long. It was rice, it was turkey, it was salt and pepper and Parmesan cheese 3 times a day. And it was poor man's food because that's what I had. And tuna. I loaded up on a lot of tuna because that's all I could afford at the time as a young man. But a lot of it was just functional. How do I get these calories into me? How to get this food into me? How to get this energy into me? But it was never about pleasure. It was never about any of that. And I've grown. So I've transitioned a lot of times in my life because my fitness goals were different as well. So, there is, again, that purpose-driven eating, which I've done. And then there's that other part of it, which is the psychological empowerment of eating because it is good, for your mind, your mentals, your spiritual perspective, and also family, communal eating, eating with your family. That's important, eating at the dinner table. But because we're empty nesters, really, we don't have to sit at the dinner table. It's not the kids and my wife, everyone assembled. It's just, hey, it's just me and my wife, and my grandson eats separately, but that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, interesting. I remember coming over there whenever I could visit you guys, the kale smoothie that you're made.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, let's talk about it. I've got a garden outside and we do. So I have kale, I've got chard, I've got broccoli, big stalk.
You have an impressive garden, my friend. Impressive.
Thanks. Actually, that pear tree out there, I don't know when it was planted, but I've been here 4 years and it's never grown anything. Last year's it's been all of a sudden, boom, man, these things are almost the size of my fist and they are incredible. So the pears are growing. The apple tree has been a bust for the last 3 years. They say usually 3+ years is when you begin to get fruit. And I did, but the birds ate them. I've got grapes now and they're blooming to turn purple, the Concord grapes. So we'll harvest those next month. We've got the raspberries, which when I started with the raspberries, that plant was the size of my fist. Now it's about 8 feet tall and probably 10 feet wide, one plant. I've got blackberries, which is doing great. I've got watermelon. I've got tomatoes. Next year, I'll be doing maybe some Tuscan melons. And we're in growing zone 7. So we're in Virginia here. We've got persimmons, and I will be planting some more trees and some other products, maybe even an herb garden for my wife. But it's just something, and I'm an amateur gardener. This is just a hobby. I didn't do it to provide food for my family. It was just something that I did with that backyard. I didn't just want to mow the lawn. I said, heck, I'm just going to put a garden back there, which is give me abundant life. So we're just playing around with things, and it seems to be working. Strawberries have been a bust. I mean, they're okay. The June berries, I think they're called the ever-growing berries. I can't recall the name exactly, but the strawberries have been very small, and they have been great. So they take up a lot of space, and I'll probably do more blackberries. But that's kind of where we're at, and it feeds my wife because she is more of a vegetarian. You know, she's not a raw vegan or anything like that. But that supplements some of it. But for me, I eat whatever's put in front of me. I don't complain, and I'm a very simple eater. I've even eaten out of the garbage, which some people are surprised, but doesn't bother me. I can eat anything. There are very few things that I will eat, which I think texture-wise, I could pretty much eat anything. Whether it's squid, which I used to eat lots of seafood, shrimp, fish, not a problem. Meat, yeah. I'm a very, very good eater. Nothing offends me. Nothing turns me off. The smell, where like my wife, forget it. Total opposites, man. So, yeah.
Yeah. Hey, let's talk a little bit about nutrition and mental health.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of a good one because that's kind of something I've experienced also when I transitioned over to eating no junk food. I'd say less junk food. I don't really have any junk food.
Well, yeah, you remember the Twinkie defense. Remember that in San
Yes.
Francisco, right?
Yep.
So he was eating Twinkies all day, and that was a big story in the news. But yeah, your mental health. Go ahead, man. Go ahead.
Sure. All right. So I'm going to talk about kind of how certain foods affect focus, mood, sleep. Sleep is a big one, right? We talked about sleep a couple times now. The gut-brain axis, as well as gut health and its effect on your immunity. I know I said mental health, but it kind of got me thinking on the gut health. Gut health has its roots in a lot of systems in the body, and I think it kind of all ties in. But so mental health, like mental clarity, when I reduced my carbohydrates, you've heard of carb coma, right? That's a
Yeah.
common one.
Yep. That's a huge one.
Or food. What do they call it? Like when you want to take a nap after you eat a lot of carbs.
Yeah.
I still have to tell. We talked about family eating. I got to tell the Italian American eating thing when I was growing up. But let me stay on track here. So, food and mental clarity. The carbohydrates. I had a lot of brain fog. Now, let me put out a disclaimer. I've had a couple TBIs, right? Traumatic brain injuries from different things with my job. So that kind of seemed normal to me. Brain fog and memory, shitty memory, mood, even mood stuff was affected. Like I'd be a little snappier, a little crankier sometimes. And we've heard of being hangry, right? Being hangry when you need some food and you start getting grouchy because you're hungry. These things, these things are all tied together. And I think a lot of it has to do with carbohydrate intake. So you have essential fatty acids, which your body requires for life, to live, for bodily functions. You have essential amino acids, proteins, which your body requires. You cannot live without them. All right. And you have a requirement for glucose. Both your brain and your muscles require glucose to function properly. Now, let me start by saying there is no requirement for carbohydrates. Contrary to what the FDA will tell you, and American Heart Association, all them, your body does not require 1 gram of carbohydrate to exist. What the body does, the liver does, it converts fatty acids and amino acids into glucose through a process called gluconeogenesis, right? And this is a function your body has through evolution. Since we were, Neanderthals or Cro-Magnon man or whatever you want to call it, we have evolved. We didn't have farms, 20,000 years ago. We ate what we killed. We might have ate some plants, right? Probably ate some fruits and berries because they fall down when they're ripe and they're sweet and they're pretty to look at. But other than that, we didn't have grains, we didn't have corn, we didn't have any of that shit. Potatoes, none of that stuff. That stuff has all been engineered since we've evolved as a human species. But back to my original point, you do not require carbohydrates. Your body will make glucose for your brain to function and for your muscles to function. Now, Am I saying is you should never eat a carbohydrate? No, not at all. Although there are people that'll tell you, and they have some pretty good, if you listen to the arguments, they have some pretty good points. But I think everybody's built a little differently, and some people tolerate certain plants better than others, or carbohydrates better than others. And I think you need to just figure out what works for you. Now, if you haven't had, and I'm going to get a little, not gross, but realistic. If you're having normal bowel movements versus non-normal bowel movements, that's a key indicator. How does your gut feel? Do you feel nauseous? Do you get gassy and bloated? Like, these are all indicators of whatever you're eating, your digestive system does not like, your body does not want it. You may have allergies to certain foods, right? A lot of people have allergies. That's your body overacting, your hyper reaction to those chemicals, those phytotoxins in those plants that your body won't tolerate. So, excuse me. What was the original?
Well, we were talking about the mind-body link, right? And there is a lot of that with health. So that's, I think, where you're with it, right? Yeah, because you got the brain function, you got your mood and energy,
mental health. So,
and you got the gut-brain axis.
When I stopped eating all those carbs, my memory became better. The clarity of my thoughts was crisper. Like, I know it's kind of my experience, and it's kind of subjective, but the brain fog was not there, especially when I switched to a ketogenic style coffee, aka the bulletproof coffee. Remember I told you that?
Yeah.
I probably did that like 8 years ago.
But Fred, were you eating processed foods like packaged snacks and sugary breakfast cereals, any of that stuff? So you were. Okay, so were you doing consuming soft drinks at all?
No, I never was a soda guy.
Okay. So, and then were you eating processed meats versus real meat?
Sometimes.
Okay. So, but you switched it over and you had more mental clarity. And I agree with you too, because a huge thing is brain function.
This is just like kind of some of the things I noticed when I switched. With that switch, and I'm not going to attribute all of it to carbohydrates, right? Because like you said, processed meats like hot dogs, bacon, Spam, canned meats, all that shit is filled with nitrates, which is not good for you in that capacity, not those kind of nitrates. Your body uses nitrates, just not the same kind of nitrates, right? So those are bad, those canned meats and, Spam and Dinty Moore beef stew. They have a lot.
Yeah, and what that does is it also gives you bad health, right? And bad health is going to give you more stress and more cravings. And that's the problem with eating a lot of the junk food, is the addiction. And that's another conversation we can have, but a lot of it is irritability, the mood swings you talked about, you're tired, the fatigue. So
you've heard of leaky gut?
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So leaky gut is gut permeability. So the epithelial cells in your intestinal, in your small intestine lining is like literally a cell thick. Okay. And when you start eating certain things that your body wasn't meant to eat, it starts creating gaps between these particles get lodged in there, and it creates permeability, and things start leaking into your bloodstream from your gut. So this gut brain axis is very important, right? These things affect your mental clarity, your mental focus, memory, all that stuff. If you start eating like hyper processed foods, lots of carbs, or even plants high in some of these phytochemicals, right? Like phytic acid is a big one in oatmeal. Oxalates, which are high in almonds and in kale, right? Kidney stones. So people that get kidney stones, if they say it's because of calcium, no, calcium is a part of the crystal that's formed, but oxalic acid binds to the calcium and creates those crystals. Oxalic acid comes from plants. It's a chemical that over evolution plants have developed, and there's some foods higher than others to basically stop your digestion so they can live, so they don't get eaten. right? Plants evolve just like people do. And there's a tons of other phyto toxins that will eating a plant kill you? These edible plants? No, it's not going to kill you. Just over time, it's going to wreak some havoc on your gut microbiome. Some of them, not all of them, and not everybody. But I noticed a huge difference when I stopped eating like a lot of green vegetables. I won't say I'll never eat a green vegetable again, but it's very rare. I've had spinach on occasion. Spinach is another oxalate bomb. Lots of oxalates in spinach. I used to eat almonds by like, the 1 pound bag of almonds by the handful, like as a snack. Like I don't do that anymore. A lot of nuts. I have a lot of that stuff. Anyways, I'm going to get off my personal soapbox, but the gut brain axis is a real thing. And also the link between your gut health and your immunity. So you've heard of autoimmune diseases, right? That's your immunity or your immune system overreacting to certain things. Some people get like psoriasis, or they'll get eczema, or they'll get different conditions. Lupus, I think sometimes is related as an autoimmune condition. There's different ones out there, and people have reversed some of these by reducing some of these plants that have these things in them. One big thing that I saw some papers on is diabetics. A lot of diabetics, when they convert to ketogenic, and I'm not pushing a ketogenic diet. I don't eat a ketogenic diet anymore. But diabetics that eat ketogenic diets, a lot of them have reversed their metabolic deficiency, or their insulin, or I'm sorry, their diabetes goes away, like they revert. It's very interesting stuff, man. Like nobody knows what people were supposed to eat because we don't live that long, right? We don't know our ancestors from 20,000 years ago. And you'll hear these expressions like eat like the ancestors, eat like your great grandparents. I think that's probably the closer one, the more accurate one. Eat like your great grandparents. Mine were beef farmers, and my great grandfather, I met both of my great grandparents on my grandmother's side, my mom's mom, when I was very young. He was a retired cattle rancher, and she, was a home wife. He ate like a dozen eggs every day and pounds of red meat. He smoked cigarettes like he was a chimney and drank alcohol like it was his job. And he lived to be 87 years old.
Right.
Now imagine if he didn't smoke or drink, you know what I mean? And she lived to be 87, I think too. She didn't smoke or drink, but, I think that's probably a good guideline, is to eat like your great grandparents did, because foods weren't processed like they are now. They didn't have the preservatives. They didn't have all the sugars, all the processed sugars, all the chemicals that they put in food, like MSG and all this other shit to make the food taste good, to make it hyper palatable. That's how these General Mills and these big companies make money.
Well, look at the Maha movement, right? That's happening right now, and the dyes in food. So, I mean, look, we can agree or disagree on a lot of points, but really what it comes down to is, are you eating to have good brain function, right? Are you eating because you want to have good mood and energy? Are you doing that because you have that gut brain axis? You realize you don't want to have, IBS or what's the other one?
IBS is a big one.
Right. So that's really what it comes down.
Crohn's disease, disease.
Right. So, and then you have these worsened mood levels. Today I went running. I got to tell you, I mowed the lawn for 3 hours, worked in the backyard, worked in the garden, and it was so darn hot, and I was sweating. And then I had coffee, and I took off. And I'll tell you, I was an emotional wreck. It was so darn hot. I was going to go do my full circuit, and then I came home, and I was almost in tears. I said, man, what's going on with me? And I realized, number one, pushing myself too hard. I didn't eat. Told my wife, I need something to eat right now, because I had mental fog. And, that's just where I was. But you should be looking at how you eat, because it's going to help you with a lot of things. For example, your relationships, right? Not just with your spouse or your kids, but with your coworkers. You can't just be a jackass and go to work and be irritable all the time. And how do you function with your teammates, right? Do you have clear thinking? Do you have focused energy? That's really important as well. And do you feel good? Do you feel balanced? And I think it was Dan White or wherever. It was a Twinkie defense happened in San Francisco where I can't remember the exact incident, but
you talking about the guy that did a diet of nothing but Twinkies for,
Yeah.
it was like, I don't know, a month or something like that, and
Yeah.
he lost weight or something like that.
No, this was the one where I remember. So it was Dan White, and basically he murdered Harvey Milk, right, and Mary Moscone. And I remember that because I saw the riots on TV. And either way, this Twinkie defense was basically the legal strategy that was used to say, hey, he had diminished capacity due to the fact that he's eating junk food all day long. And I
Oh
would
yeah,
say
yeah, I
there's
did hear
yeah,
about that. I did
yeah.
hear about
And,
that.
okay, is it a cop out? Probably is. But at the same time, you can say eating a lot of junk food, all the potato chips and all the Cokes and all the pizza, and it's just not going to make you a good person to be around. I mean, honestly, you're probably going to be very irritable. You're going to probably have a lot of issues with your gut and a lot of mental fog. But go ahead, Fred.
There's articles about God dang it. Articles about let's talk about hangry. That was kind of the last
That's
point.
the point I was making. Yeah, hangry.
So
Yeah.
when I switched from a lot of carbs to very low carbs, I was never hangry. Even I was doing some intermittent fasting. So I would do like a 16-hour fast, and I was not cranky at all, which I used to get when I didn't eat. I'd get super agitated and snappy. And I'm telling you, man, it's it's that glucose or that the sugar and the carbohydrates. But you mentioned something in the end of that statement you made, and I was going to touch on that, and I lost it, man. I'm sorry.
No. My whole thing is really whatever you guys are eating, don't get into this idea that all meat is bad. That's not what I'm saying. And neither is Fred saying that all vegetables are bad, right? It's just really, are you eating in such a way that your lifestyle is a good one, and that your fitness level is at a level that you can manage your family. You don't have all these health considerations to be concerned about. And that's the thing. You want to try to eat regularly, right? Sometimes you get caught up in work and you realize you haven't eaten for 12 or 16 hours. And that happens. I've been in that situation. I know Fred has been in it as well. And then when you do get food, it's just junk. You see it a lot with cops. You see it a lot when you got to eat and go. You're going to sit down and eat your Carl's Jr. or your Burger King in your car, and then all of a sudden you get a call and you got to go, and you don't get to eat right, or you're traveling, a traveling salesman. That's another thing too. So the point I'm trying to drive at is really, regardless of what you choose to do, create a system where you can eat well and feel well. That's really what I'm driving at.
Yep. So kind of going back to, I just remember what that point you made up or you brought up was on mental health was so Alzheimer's, dementia.
Yeah.
There's also research now saying that they're putting severe dementia patients, Alzheimer's patients, such and so forth on these ketogenic diets, man. And it's either slowing or stopping the progression of their dementia, which is interesting, right? Because their body is not getting the sugar, the carbohydrates, so they're using ketones, or they're having higher ketones, and they're using gluconeogenesis to use up any glucose that their brain requires is through gluconeogenesis. I just want to touch on something. I want to clarify my point. I'm not telling you don't eat vegetables. I'm telling you I don't eat a lot of vegetables, but there are vegetables I do eat. I eat squashes, zucchini, right? Zucchini.
Yeah, that's the other thing. We're growing that. Yeah, good stuff.
I eat a lot of fruits, pretty much all the fruits, but I don't eat a lot of green. I don't eat a lot of cruciferous vegetables just because of the phytotoxins and such. And everybody's different. Some people can tolerate them. Like you have to, a big indicator is how your diet is affecting you is, do you have energy? That's the big one.
Right.
If you're sluggish or tired all the time, now there's other things that could be that too, but I would try adjusting your diet first and sleep, right? Those are the two big ones, because those will affect your energy levels more than anything else, short of like a serious, like a cancer or something like that. Right. So That's all I wanted. I just want to clarify. I'm not anti-vegetable at all.
Yeah, and I know you're not
I don't
anti-vegetable
eat as
either.
many as I used to.
Yeah, I think you just got to do what's best for you at the place you're at, and that's really to be very disciplined. Okay, you can make excuses and say, hey, I don't have enough time, but you really try to eat as well as you can, and eat as consistently as you can, right? So a lot of bodybuilders should do that. I mean, I was listening to a story about Marky Mark when he was getting big for the movie Pain and Gain, and he would have the alarm set, and he would wake up at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning and have a shake. And he said it got exhausting, but you have to do that sometimes. You just have to stick to a plan, man. Eat 3 or 4 times a day, whatever you're going to ingest, but be disciplined about it. Be consistent about it. It's really important for achieving not only your physical goals, but for everything else, right? And try to be motivated about it as well. Try to be excited about being healthy. That's huge. If it's fat loss or muscle growth, try to be excited about that. So just my thought.
Yeah. I mentioned earlier about caffeine, right? Caffeine, there's people that don't drink coffee, and that's fine. If coffee's not your jam, like, that's not a problem. However, there's a lot of research on the effects of coffee and positive effects on your physiology with coffee. And I mentioned that I used to use sugar a lot, and now I don't. I put butter, and I put medium chain triglycerides in my coffee. So I don't have that caffeine buzz, and then that crash when the caffeine starts wearing off. I don't have that because it's more slow, sustained burn, if you will. So that's just kind of one of those things I did. But my recommendation to people, if you're not sure if what you're eating is right, or you want to try to start from scratch, start with an elimination diet. If you eat meat, only eat meat for like a week and just see how you feel, because there's a couple of indicators that'll tell you if your diet's good or not. One is, how well are you sleeping? 2 is bowel movements, and not necessarily how frequent they are. That is not an indicator of good health, like all these high fiber gurus will tell you, right? It's pretty much the consistency, the right consistency. You're not peeing out your butt, right? You're not having diarrhea, because that's a sign of something's not right. If it's something your body didn't like, if it's flushing it out. And then energy levels. Those are like the big 3 to determine for yourself if what you're eating works for you. If you don't have any energy, or at least cut out all the garbage, cut out all the fast food. And people think eating healthy is expensive. It's not.
It's not.
I eat, what I eat every day? In the morning, I eat 4 eggs. Sometimes I'll eat a small steak.
Do you meal prep?
Sometimes. Not usually, because I've gotten lazy. I used to meal prep more when I was younger.
Okay.
But I order meat through Butcher Box. So I get a monthly in the meat. So it's less money. I spend less, and I get grass-fed, grass-finished meat. So it's less than if you buy it in the market. But I eat a ribeye or a pound of ground beef, an 18-ounce ribeye or a pound of ground beef almost every night for dinner. Sometimes I'll have either a cup of rice or some squash with it, depending on if I needed it for my workout, if I worked out hard that day or not. Lunch is usually like, I might make some ground beef to take to work, or I might, I did cancel bread out for a while, but now I only eat sourdough bread, which is a little bit better. It reduces some of the gluten in the flour. It's still not ideal, but it's better than regular bread. So I'll make like a tuna sandwich or a steak sandwich for lunch on on some sourdough bread. And like I said, I don't usually snack. I drink coffee in the morning. I drink water throughout the day. I might have a glass of milk some days. If I make a protein shake, I'll use milk. But I don't. Oh, cheese. That's my snacks. I'll eat chunks of like hard cheeses, which are really good.
Some of my favorites is hard cheeses. Absolutely, man.
That stuff's not expensive. Like the ground beef is like $5 a pound, and it's grass-fed beef. The steaks are, through that ordering company, is not very much, man. So it's not expensive.
No,
So,
I think a lot of times, and this is a bigger conversation, but really Fred and I are just saying, hey, your nutrition, that's important, right? And you don't want to have a sedentary lifestyle. Smoking, that's something that I stopped doing. I used to do that all the time. I used to work in the nightclubs. I used to smoke. You're just sitting around doing something, right? And then alcohol. Now, I'm not against alcohol. I will still drink alcohol. As I've said before, I've had, 3 drinks in the last since 2008, and that's all been with my father-in-law. And I drink when I want to drink. I used to have a serious drinking problem. I don't drink anymore. I used to drink for 30 years. And then I just stopped. One day I just said, I'm done. But I will have a drink. Now, extreme alcohol consumption, that's a problem. That's what I'm talking about. Overeating, that's another issue. Eating junk food, I would say don't.
Well, the overeating, Mike, I don't mean to interrupt. So the overeating, a lot of that comes from hyper processed, hyper palatable foods. Those processed foods, they make them, they design those foods to be hyper palatable, so you will overeat them. And that's just kind of part of it, unfortunately.
You're right. And then a lack of sleep, that goes into it as well, man. You don't really make great decisions when you're tired or irritable. And that all those things that come with it, stress and anxiety that comes with it, right? And then your environment too. I mean, just the noise levels are high in your house. You're trying to sleep and the kids are outside running around the streets, playing basketball, whatever it is. So Fred and I are just really talking about not just nutrition, but everything else that plays into that. Fred, do you smoke, right? But you don't do like, I saw David Letterman talking about Bill Cosby, and he said, I smoke one a day. And I think it was Letterman said he was smoking 10 cigars a day. And he said, holy cow, he's only got one cigar a day. So he severely cut his intake. How about you? How many cigars do you have a week?
I used to smoke probably a cigar a week. Mm-hmm. Back in the Dutch days when we used to hang out and go have whiskey and stuff. And around that time I turned 50 and I changed my diet. I started kind of getting rid of the toxicity in my life a little bit. Some of the people I was hanging around with. So I stopped drinking mostly. I didn't quit, but for the most part, and I reduced cigars. So I do have one now and again, like maybe once every couple of months, 2, 3, 4 months, maybe, like if there's a special occasion, but no. However, there's a lot of research now about low dose nicotine and the positive effects. That's why these Zyn packets, these little 3 milligram nicotine packets that people put in their mouth, like dip, people are using that for it has different beneficial roles. But I don't do it. But there is science backing low dose nicotine and its effects, just not through smoking, because all the other chemicals and the actual smoke going into your lungs and being absorbed, which is carcinogenic, the smoke itself, as well as the chemicals that they spray in tobacco to preserve them.
Yeah, I used to smoke, stopped in 95, stopped drinking in 2008. But again, I can't have alcohol. I have not smoked and don't have any intention of, not even a cigar. I'd have a beer with you, Fred. We were hanging out again. You come over to my house for the next show. Let's have something. And then big one that I've tried to focus on is lack of sleep. I'm getting a lot more sleep, which I try to sleep like 10, and I woke up after 6. I was like, wow, it's just 6 hours. That's all I needed.
That's the number one thing to address, even over diet, is sleep. Like if you have performance,
right,
or any kind of physical issues, fixing your sleep takes the top, man. Even more so than diet. Hey,
go ahead.
Go ahead, man.
No, I was just saying, if you have a good life, man, you have to eat healthy and you have to have a diversified diet. I mean, we're not saying one size fits all. It's just really what works for you, and what works for you in the end should be, I think we all can agree, is longevity, man. You want to keep moving at 70, 80, 90. And you hear stories about guys out there who are climbing mountains or running long races or whatever it is. They're just taking your grandkids out, and you don't want to be restricted to the house. You don't want to be bedridden. So, kind of keep track of what you're doing and try to avoid excessive habits, like whether it's smoking or drinking or eating too much. Try to get enough sleep, try to think positively, try to do those things. And that's really, I think, what Fred and I try to sum up today.
Yeah. Eating less if you're an overeater, eating less, moving more, walking, right? All that stuff is helpful. Getting good sleep. avoiding these trendy diets like low fat or, carnivore or ketogenic or vegan or
Hmm.
sugar free. Just think about, if that's not your jam, think about just getting whole foods, right? The outside of the shopping, the supermarket aisles, the outside, the meat, the dairy, the vegetable, the produce
Right.
section.
Right.
Only shop in those areas. Don't go through the center aisles. Well, salt is important, so you do need salt, which is in the middle aisles. It's in the baking goods area, but I salt all my food. I didn't used to use salt. It's kind of funny. And I started reading about salt intake and its importance, because I would get really bad cramps, sweating all day on the range. And I'd be laying in bed at night and cramping up, my legs, and getting bad Charlie horses because I wasn't using salt or taking in enough salt.
Yeah,
Whole food,
go ahead. Go ahead, Fred.
yeah, just whole foods and clean eating. I think starting there, if there's something you're not sure that you're having some kind of reaction to, then take it out of your diet, and then take all these things out of your diet, and then later, one at a time, add them slowly back in and see if that's the culprit.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mike, what were you going to say?
No, I was just talking about, I don't know if you ever saw the movie about Kellogg's, right? So it was,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
remember that one? Who's the
Yeah.
famous actor, the English actor? Anthony
Uh,
Hopkins
oh
played him.
yeah. Yeah.
Played him as a wacko. But Kellogg's, he had a sanitarium, and it was created. They basically created this cereal product, and this
Cornflakes.
was something that was meant for health, right? He even had how many times you had to chew in your mouth, right? So I'm not going to get deep into the history of that, but I'm saying it was created as a means of getting people healthy. And now you look at Kellogg's today and all the garbage that they put in it. It's for profit. The goal is not to make people healthy at all, man. They have all these breakfast cereals just for your palate. That's it. It's kind of funny how everything that is created for good, there's always some scumbag out there who's going to degrade it and make it for profit.
Yep. Do you want to discuss supplements or vitamins and stuff like that at all, or you want to say that?
I don't take them, but if you want to talk about them, go for it. I do a lot of herbs and things, but no, I don't take any supplements. But if you want to talk about it, we definitely can.
I would just say that I'm just going to touch on it.
Go for it, man.
So supplements, there's some great ones out there. There's some bullshit ones out there.
Mhm.
Most of them are bullshit. Doesn't matter who the company that makes them are. I would say if you're going to take a supplement, it kind of depends what your goals are. But like, if you're not getting enough protein in your diet, a protein powder is probably a good one to start with. Right. So that 1 gram per pound per body weight. So if I want to eat 200 grams of protein and I only have 1 pound of ground beef that day, so that's about 100. So I'm already short 100 grams. So I may need to, if I don't eat eggs and all the other stuff I normally eat, I might have to have 2 protein shakes later in that day, 50 grams each or something like that to help balance it out. It's kind of a convenience thing. Not all protein powders are created equal. Some are better than others. Some are hyper processed and have a lot of shit ingredients in them. You got to read the labels. I've tried a couple different ones and they only have 2 or 3 ingredients in them. Usually I'll get the unflavored ones. Normally don't have as many because they don't have artificial flavors or they don't have like artificial sweeteners in there. So, which is another topic for another day, is artificial sweeteners. And they're just as bad for you as sugar is, just in a different way. But like I'll use a whole whey made from a grass-fed cow, whey protein, which only has like the chocolate, the whey protein, and I think there's an artificial sweetener in there, like stevia. I think there's stevia in it.
Yeah.
Man,
There are a lot of good products out there. There are a lot of bad products. I remember like protein powders, right? The fake protein powders with bull testicles and deer antlers and all this nonsense that came out. And you're like, how do you even know? And they did a lot of tests and found out, there was a lot of garbage, and it's just a lot of fake protein powders. And how do you tell? Well, the texture, the color.
you got to read the
And,
labels.
yeah, you got to read the labels. But it's so funny because I remember that Sylvester Stallone was selling something called Fire, and I don't remember what it was. I don't remember if it was a protein powder or something. But the same month it came out, he was held at the Thai airport for bringing steroids into the country. So I thought it was kind of funny. So GNC was selling this product called Fire, and at the same time, he's in the news for trying to get steroids in from Thailand into America. So I was cracking up about that one, man. It was about 20 years ago.
And then like a multivitamin. Some people will take a multivitamin, and I used to take a multivitamin.
Yeah.
You're gonna take a supplemental vitamin, multivitamin. Look at the labels, because a lot of them are shitty vitamins that your body will not use, and they're synthetic vitamins. So if you're going to use a multivitamin, look for something that has methylated vitamins, which are your body, the bioavailability is better. Your body will absorb them. And there's different types of like vitamin D and vitamin C and vitamin A, whether they're plant-based, meat-based, animal-based, or if they're synthetic. So read your labels. Vitamin D is an important one. I do supplement with vitamin D because we don't get a lot of sun. I don't get a lot of sun, especially in the winter time. So I do use it more so in the darker part of the year. Fish oil is another controversial one because a lot of them are oxidated. A lot of them are spoiled. So you have to get your fish oil. If you want to eat for essential fatty acids, for omega-3s, I mean.
So where do you get yours from? You eat salmon or sardines, or what do you do?
That's what I was going to say. So there's different types out there. You got to read those labels too. And the better companies, the better quality ones are more expensive, unfortunately. I've tried, I've never tried cod liver, which they say cod liver is probably the best and most potent. I've used the standard stuff the VA gives, which is probably a no-go, right? And they stopped doing it. They stopped doing fish oil. Like, it was a money thing. It was a budget. It was a cutback thing. But it had the EPAs and the DHAs, which are the the main types that they use. I've tried krill oil, right? The red label ones from the little shrimp.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Do the research, because that's another one where you can go either way, either high quality, or you could be just spending money and, pissing it out or pooping it out later.
Yeah.
To be perfectly honest, if it's not bioavailable, your body doesn't absorb it, you're just flushing money literally down the toilet. So do your research. But those are really the others. Oh, creatine. I do use creatine monohydrate because it has a lot there's tons of, that's the most researched supplement out there. Yeah. And there's so much good information about creatine monohydrate, not just for muscle, also for brain, as well as bone health. There's tons of research. I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty details, but it's very beneficial to take it, especially if you're older. Normally you can get enough creatine if you eat a lot of red meat. Normally, like a pound of red meat has, I think, 2 to 3 grams of creatine. The recommended dosage, if you're taking it, is 5 grams per day. So, and the loading phase is not necessary. That was a marketing scam to get people to buy it more. There's tons of studies on it. Look it up, guys. That's all I have really for supplements. Those are the really only ones that are worth a shit, honestly.
Cool, man.
Never use pre-workouts or any of that garbage.
You don't like that stuff? I mean, is it because you didn't have good experiences with them, or you just feel that they're
full of garbage. They're full of chemicals that your body doesn't like. Caffeine being the key ingredient. Yeah. And I drink coffee. I drink 32 ounces of coffee every day, so I'm getting my caffeine.
Right.
So
cool, man.
Yep, that's all I do.
Anything else you want to talk about, man?
No, I think I hit all my points.
Yeah.
It's pretty good discussion, I think. I mean, this is one of those, rabbit holes you can go down and
all the way,
everywhere. Turns.
Yeah. I mean, look, we could talk about legumes. We could talk about, plant-based diets and all the other stuff that goes with it. Right. But for me, I just try to stay away from the junk food as much as possible. Yep. I'll eat crap if I have to. I don't prefer it, if I'm on the road. Sometimes you have some really poor choices, man, and that kind of sucks. That's why I don't like traveling, unless I can pack it away.
That's a good point. Let's talk about that for like a couple minutes.
Yeah, let's do that. If I'm traveling, my wife will package stuff for the road.
Okay, yeah.
We don't stop anywhere. But
That's
sometimes
it.
you got to eat what's there, and it's just terrible choices. Go ahead, Fred.
Well, I found myself on long road trips needing some snacks because I didn't bring enough or I forgot something or whatever. So if I stop at like, a truck stop or whatever, I don't know why my screen keeps getting dark. If I stop at a truck stop, I'll go to like the snack section. And I'm a big label reader now, but like boiled eggs, they'll
Yeah.
sell packets of 6 boiled eggs in a bag. That's one of my go-tos right there.
Yeah.
Eggs are nature's multivitamin.
Eggs and cheese, man.
Entire egg. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Hard cheeses are good for you. They're good
Yeah.
snacks. They're calorie dense. So stuff like that. Jerky that is not, you got to read the label on jerky. There's good jerkies and then there's horrible jerky, beef jerky, chicken jerky, whatever jerky. Just read the labels because there's a lot of preservatives in a lot of jerkies because it's so mass produced. If you make your own jerky, it's pretty easy. Like that's better.
Do you when you come up, you come up 95 to 81? Because they got a big Buc-ee's they just opened up in Harrisonburg.
Yeah, I heard there's a Buc-ee's.
I haven't been down there. I've been wanting to go. It's like a 2-hour drive for me, man. But if you're up in the area, man, stop by. So
I'll be up there soon.
Yeah. So I look, travel, you gotta make some hard choices sometimes. But again, for me and Fred, we're just talking about being disciplined, and you and I are, I think, very disciplined people. We have good habits. We're motivated. We have goals. Those are the things that you have to have. I'm not going to sit down and count calories like I used to. I'm not going to do that. I have a good idea in my head how many calories a big banana, a small banana, 80 and 110, for calories. But I'm not going to count calories like I used to. You do it enough that you remember how much is in there. At the end of the day, really, you got to listen to your body, man. You got to have some type of intuitive eating. When you get into a good streak, stay with that streak and then have that intuitive eating. It may not be a structured diet plan, but you have a good sense of what's right and what's wrong. When you eat that candy, you're like, probably shouldn't have had that. So, you want to trust your cravings. You want to eat in response to these internal cues that you have that you've worked out. And that's what I do. I'm a person of high regularity. Everything I eat every day is pretty much the same. I'm pretty boring. You're a boring eater too, right? Yeah.
Yep, sure. Hey, one more thing now that you had me think about the road trip thing. So for my hardcore clean eaters out there, if you have to stop for fast food at an exit because you have kids, wife that won't eat anything but fast food, whatever, there are some choices. I did the research. The highest quality burger patty, beef patty, is Wendy's. In this order, Wendy's is the highest. Burger King, if there's no Wendy's, Burger King is all right. McDonald's is the lowest quality beef. Don't get McDonald's. But Wendy's,
that's the worst.
Wendy's, you can go in Wendy's and order like whatever size burger. Don't get the chemical cheese. Ask for the Swiss cheese because the orange chemical cheese is not real cheese. But get your burgers and you can get, like, I'll get 4 patties, no bun. And they even have little plates they put them in for the people that don't eat bread, and they'll put lettuce and tomato if that's what you want. Mm-hmm. So I get 4 patties and they literally charge you, I think it's like $1.20 for an extra patty. If you say, I want a cheeseburger, no bun with provolone cheese or whatever Swiss cheese they have, I don't remember the cheeses, and can I add 3 patties to it? They'll add the patties. It's like $1.25 or something a piece. It's pretty cheap. Like I can get a big chunk of beef, ground beef, for a good amount of money there. Like that's my go-to when I'm on the road.
Hey, the last thing I want to talk about is actually defend your food, right? So you gotta fight for your food, man. And you get food pushers. That usually who are the biggest saboteurs? That's your family. You go over there for Christmas or the holidays, wherever it is, and they're telling, oh, you got to eat one more muffin or one more slice of pie, one more, and you're like, Mom or whomever, no. If you have got a goal, stick with your goal. And I'm not saying it's going to be adversarial. You're not going to get a fist fight with your brother because, you turned down his wife's casserole. But you see it a lot. What's that?
I forgot about that, the family stuff.
Yeah. Because you go there and I'll tell you the saboteurs, and I see it because my wife deals with a lot of clients, and these poor people, they had a gal that wrote my wife from Italy, and the father wanted her to be unmarried and cook for him forever. And it's really kind of like slavery almost. So this poor woman wanted to get healthy, and the dad wanted these traditional Italian recipes. He's like, no, you're not going to get married, and you're going to take care of Papa. It's kind of sad. You see a lot of wives where the husbands and wives, and it's a sad conversation, but the husbands and wives do not get along, and someone's binge eating, and maybe they're 50 to 100 pounds overweight, and it's really heartbreaking. They want to reverse that, and she had it where the woman was trying to lose weight, and the husband's like, oh, you're just trying to lose weight, you're getting too skinny for me, here, have more donuts. And he was giving her all this junk food and crap that he wanted to eat. And here's this person who is struggling to get healthy, and so you have to say no. So I don't think a lot of our listeners and viewers are going to be in that situation, but if you are, you need to fight for your food. You need to go to Thanksgiving and say, hey, listen, I had my portion size, this is what I'm happy with, this is what I'm going to do. I meal prep. I brought my rice, I brought my steak, or whatever you bring, and you have to defend it.
I when I switched over at my 50th, man, I went through that at all my families, and my wife's family is Puerto Rican.
Yeah.
So they put out the big spread.
Huge spread.
My family, not as big as they used to. A lot of my grandparents and aunts, they all died off, but like they still do all the pasta and I don't eat that stuff anymore. I loved it. Like I would crush that. When I was a kid, I'd eat 3 plates of macaroni with meatballs, sausage, gravy, the sauce, all that stuff.
Yeah.
I haven't done that in years. I haven't eaten pasta since like when I was in my 40s. And, but yeah, all my relatives, they looked at me funny, like, what? Come on, you can do this just this once. You're on vacation. I'm like, no, I'm not doing it.
Good for you, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm the same with Thanksgiving. We go over there and my wife will make me a small plate, but she knows I don't, number one, I have to drive home. I do not want to be tired from eating all that food and then driving home, an hour and a half in traffic, forget it. So, but yeah, get a small plate. But if I'm traveling, yeah, we try to eat well. That's it.
Yep.
Cool, man.
Yeah, discipline. It's all about discipline.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's that opportunity cost, right? You see that, you want something else. I mean, you got to give up something to get something. So you really have to decide what
I'm not saying you can't once in a while. You can have a cheat.
Oh, of course.
Like you gotta, you're human. They say the 80-20 rule or the 90-10 rule, whatever. I don't do that, but like I'll have when I go home, visit relatives, there's a certain type of hot dog they have up there called the hot wiener. And I eat 6 of those bad guys at one time. Like that's my falling off the wagon. I go home and I eat 6 of those, and I probably do it more than once, like on the trip.
So what's your vice, man? For me, it's a weakness is cheese and jerky. I could eat bags and bags.
I eat cheese almost every day. I eat hard cheese.
But I mean, yeah.
Like good cheese, not like processed cheese, but I eat cheese almost every day.
Yeah. Yep. If I were to eat something, it would be, and I used to like all sweets, but now it's more savory type stuff.
I think my crutch is bread, like the sourdough. Like I eat sourdough bread. I didn't eat any bread for a couple of years, and then I started looking at sourdough, and I was like, that's a better option. It's not perfect, but it's better than regular bread.
I love sourdough. I definitely do.
So like I'll buy the sourdough at Aldi is actually high quality. It's got flour, salt, water. That's it.
Yeah.
And
basic.
Yep.
Well, yeah, look at some of the bread they have now. It's like 10, 20 ingredients, 30 ingredients.
Yep.
Yeah. Cool, man.
Ingredients, the better.
All right. I think we are talked out, man. I mean, we could keep going, but I think we've got an hour and 30 minutes here. I think we're pushing it, but we're good. I hope everybody got something out of this. Any last things, Fred, before we sign off?
No, man. I'm glad we had this talk. It was kind of in the back of my mind, like when we think of topics to talk about, and I hope it was informative and thought provoking, as opinionated as it was. I admit, on my side, anyways. But the opinions are backed by research, guys. I did a lot of research. I'm talking a couple of years of reading through research papers on nutrition, and I have my son's girlfriend, she's a registered dietitian, and I have a dietitian where I work, and the dietitian where I work's a vegan, which makes me laugh. But everybody's got their things, their opinions. But like I did research before I started limiting some of these things. So just so people know, it's not like a crazy fad. You just got to figure out what works for you.
What works for
So,
you? At
yeah.
the end of the day, man, be active, right? Like Fred and I, we're very active. We're not on walkers.
Yeah.
We're not on canes. We're not sitting around. We're not just talking out of our rear end. We actually are very active people. We exercise regularly, 6 days a week for me. Do it, whatever, man. Get out there. So
For sure.
cool. All right, Fred, I'll talk to you offline here. And guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Please like, share, and subscribe. See you soon.